Well, President Biden and his administration left to manage the fallout from Special Counsel Robert Hur's report, which accuses him of mishandling classified documents but did not recommend charges. It also shared stunning details of alleged memory lapses, including what Hur claimed was the president not recalling when his son Beau passed away. Beau died in 2015 of a brain tumor. Let's bring in Jay Town, a former U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Alabama. I should point out, Jay, you were appointed by former President Trump, but you're not a Trump toady. I know that. You don't necessarily agree with everything the man who appointed you has said and done. So let's talk about this report. People say that, you just heard Adam Schiff say it, that this was a political hit job on the president. What do you say?
Yeah, well, I've known Rob Hur for a long time now. I served with him when he was the U.S. Attorney in the District of Maryland. And I can tell you that just because some people like Adam Schiff might think that this landed like a haymaker, it doesn't mean Hur even threw a punch at all. And I don't know what Adam Schiff's prosecutorial experience is. It's certainly not mine. And I can tell you that this is actually a very conservative declination memo. We've heard the word gratuitous in the last 72 hours, perhaps more than it's ever been used in the history of man. This isn't John Comey 2.0. Jim Comey was the FBI director. He was an investigator. He was not the prosecutor in the case. The declination comes from the prosecutor. In that case, in the Hillary Clinton case, should have been Attorney General Loretta Lynch. Now, Rob Hur, the special counsel statute requires him to provide a very detailed report to not only the Department of Justice and to Congress. And don't forget, John, that Merrick Garland, Attorney General Garland, was the one who promised that he would make the report public. Hur didn't make it public. DOJ did. Biden's own cabinet member did. And so I think that, we're very much overstating the political hit job that this report was. It was actually a very thorough and well done report. It was about 350 pages long, about twice as long as the Mueller report. It was very well written in its reasoning.
Okay, well, on page 241 of that report, and I know you say that you have read it twice, it reads this: "We think jurors assessing Mr. Biden's guilt and intent will be persuaded less by what the government says in executive orders and agency regulations, and more by what the government has done or not done by way of enforcement." You say that's one of the key paragraphs in the entire report. What do you mean?
It is, and it's very deep into the report. That one sentence, I think, is the most important sentence in the entire report because it encapsulates Rob Hur's rationale and his thinking about prosecutorial discretion. Rob Hur did what Jack Smith should have done, to Senator Cotton's point. Hur weighed sort of the equities, the balance of the equities. What's the harm to national security of Biden having these documents outside of a SCIF versus the harm to the trust and confidence in the justice system, or perhaps the republic, that indicting a former vice president or the sitting president would cause? What are the balance of the defenses, the mental acuity issues that are no secret now in Hur's report versus the element of willfulness that Rob Hur would have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. There's been much made, especially by pundits actually on the right, that in the report itself, it says that there is evidence of willfulness by Joe Biden. Yes, that's true. But Hur concluded that there was not evidence beyond a reasonable doubt of willfulness. So it can be proven beyond a reasonable doubt of willfulness. Very big distinction with a significant difference.
All right. Former U.S. Attorney Jay Town. We could talk about this all night, but we got to say goodbye. Thanks, Jay.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.